Hi everyone, in this video we are going to discuss the simulation paper for our semester exam. So this video will be on a calculator free section, then we have the other video for calculator assume. So make sure that you go through the whole paper, mark through all your answer, try to make the necessary correction and learn from your mistakes. Alright, and hopefully from there you learn something that will be helpful for your next week semester exams. Alright, so let's start with question 1. Consider the following recurrence relation: n plus 1 term equals to the nth term minus 3 and the third term is given 2. So by looking at this recurrence relation, you should be able to identify that it is going to be an arithmetic sequence, because how do you get the next term? You are using the current term to minus 3. So that's why it is having a common difference, so it is an arithmetic sequence. So when you try to display it in the graph, then you should be able to get a linear shape, which is going to be a straight line. So you can start from the third term, which is 2. So the third term is 2. So how do we get the fourth term? Is we will minus 3, right? So that's why 2 minus 3, and you can get negative 1. And after that, negative 1 minus another negative 3, and it will be able to give you negative 4. So negative 4 is 1, oops, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this is it. Alright, so the question want you to display the first 6 term, right? So that's why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 more. So from negative 4, another 3, 1, 2, 3, so negative 7 is here. Alright, so this is from the third term to the sixth term, so which means we still need the first two. So imagine if you minus 3 to get the future term, which means that you will need to plus 3 to get the previous term, right? So as y from 2, you can plus 3 and you can get 5 for your second term. Then after that, you plus another 3, then you get the first term, which is going to be 8. So after you have shown all this, then you should realize that it will give you a straight line. So that's basically the part for number 3. Okay, then the question also want you to label the axes clearly. So in this case, this will be your number of term, which will be labeled as n. So this is our nth term, right? So that's why it's going to be Tn. Alright, so this is how you show it. Okay, so the idea here is for you to get the 3 marks, you should first thing label the axes correctly. You can get 1. Then after that, when you move on, okay, let me try to do this. So the first one, you get the axes all correctly. So second one, if you are able to get at least 2 points, so the last one is you get all correct, then you can get the second marks. So that is how the first 3 marks are given. Okay, so now let's move on to 1b. Deduce a rule for the nth term for this sequence. So for this question, there are 2 ways that you can do it. The first one is that you know that it is an arithmetic sequence. So we can try to use the formula, which is the nth term is equal to a plus n minus 1d. So the a will be our first term. So by looking at the solution in part A, then you know that your first term is 8. So we are going to substitute 8 for a. Then after that, n minus 1d is the common difference. In this case, we minus 3 to get all the subsequent term, right? So the common difference here is negative 3. So let's try to simplify them. Then we can get 8 minus 3n plus 3. So just do some quick simplification and we can get negative 3n plus 11. So that's the first way that you can do that. Second thing is that, this is like a linear model. So you can try to use a linear modeling to do that. So we know that y equals to mx plus c. So in this case, our y here, our y variable is the nth term. So which means that the y here is going to be Tn. Alright, so the m is the gradient, right? So gradient tells us when x increase for 1 unit, how much unit change happen in y. So in this case, you can see that when x increase by 1 unit, the y will decrease by 3 unit, and that is our common difference as well. So the gradient here is negative 3. So the x here is the n. Alright, plus c is the y-intercept for y equals to mx plus c. So for this straight line, you can imagine that if you were to find what is your 0 term, so which is the term before 1, then it will be 8, then plus another 3, right? So that's why 8 plus 3, then you are able to get 11. So this is how you can get the nth term equals to negative 3n plus 11 as well. So the answer is the same. Alright, so the idea for the 2 marks for this question is that you must make sure that you are writing down your n and also tn correctly. Then after that, you successfully to get -3 and also 11. So the whole thing here will give you 2 marks. All right, so make sure that you are not writing like y equals to -3x plus 11. In that case, then you can only get 1 mark. So which means gradient and also the y-intercept, -3 and also 11 give you 1 mark. Correct Tn and n give you another marks. All right, so that's the idea. Okay, 2. Hence, determine the first term in the sequence which is less than -500. All right, so we know that for the first term less than -500, so which means that the nth term that is less than 500, and we are going to solve what is the n. So we know that our nth term is equals to -3n plus 11, right? So we are going to substitute into the nth term part. So this term should be lesser than 500. I'm sorry, it's -500. All right, and now we will kind to solve it. So in this case, we get -3n smaller or lesser than -511. All right, so when you are solving this inequality, when you are trying to divide a negative number, you know that you should flip you should flip around your inequality sign. So this is how you get n will be greater than 511 divided by 3. All right, or it's the same thing when you put negative lah, the answer is just the same. So n will be greater than 170.33. This is how you can get the answer. I mean, if let's say you find this, yeah, okay, because this is a calculator free paper, right? So you can also leave your answer in fraction. If let's say you find it difficult for you to get like the decimal point, then what you can try to do is 3, then 1, then 1721 and then 0, so 1/3. So n should be greater than 1701/3. So from there, then what is the first term that gives you the term that is lesser than -500, right? So n will be greater than 171, which means the first term will be n equals to 171. All right, so the question one is to determine the first term, so we need to find out the first term as well. So the nth term will be equal to -3n plus 11. So if we want to find out the 171 term, then which means we need to substitute 171. All right, so plus 11, and at the end, you should be able to get -502. All right, so that's the part for this question. So the 3 marks in this question will be given as if the first one, of course, you get your last answer. Then after that, you can get 171, and what are you trying to do is solving this equation. So in this case, because you are solving, so it's okay if let's say you want to put equals to here, but then actually smaller than is the correct way to do that. But then the question only want you to see the solving equation part. So that's why it's still okay when you write equal to here, but at the end you still need to get 171 lah. All right, so this is how you can get the 3 marks. All right, so let's proceed to the next question. All right, question 2. A group of university students were asked the question, does full attendance at school lead to an improved examination result? So this is their result with the age, and after that, this is a column whether they agree or not. So A state the explanatory variable for this data. So this is quite direct. So explanatory variable is a variable that comes first, is a variable that explains the difference in the response variable. So normally something that is regarding the identity kind of thing, something that you can't change will be at the explanatory variable. So in this case, the age will be the explanatory variable in this question. So the age of the university students. All right, so if you are writing age also, that is okay. So, but then it will be good that you always put your answer in full up. But in this case, it's totally fine if you only put age. All right, so that's the question that give you the first marks here. Okay, so when we move on to the next one, the incomplete table shows the row percentage, complete the table. So for this question, they already give you that they are doing a row percentage. So if let's say you are doing a row percentage, then which means that the total for each row, it should be equals to 100%. Okay, so yeah, this is not in the table, but it's something that you can definitely use it to check your answer later. All right, so we have the first one here. Then you need to get what is the row, what is the sum for your each of your row first before you can get to the row percentage, right? So 14, 14, 28, 28 plus 42, that gives you 70. 56, 16, that is 72, so 80. And then after that, 40 plus 42 plus 8, that's 50. Alright, then now we can start to find this. So 14 divided by 70, you will be able to get 1 over 5, multiply 100%, then you can get 20% and 20%. Alright, so the next one for 80 and is 56 over 80 and divide by 8, then you should be able to get 7 over 10, so that's why it's 70%. So 8 over 80, then you can get 1 over 10, which is 10%. So 70 plus 20 plus 10 is 100, that's correct. So 50, I think this one is quite easy lah. 42 divided by 50, then you can get 84 is given already. 5 divided by 50 is 1 over 10, so that's why it's 10%. 3 divided by 50, you can't do anything, so 2 times 3, that's 6%. Alright, so 84 plus 10 plus 6, then you can get 100%. This is how you check your answer. So for this table, everything is correct, then you will be able to get 1 mark. So at least 3 percentages to get your first mark. So which means in this case, if you are able to get 3 correct, you get the 1 mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you get all 6 correct, then you get second marks. Alright, so D, use the data to determine one association that you see between the variable, describe the association and explain your reasoning. So for this case, the question only want you to determine one association and describe it. So which means that you doesn't really need to write the long thing that we do previously. So just bear in mind that you only answer according to the question, answer according to what the question want. So in this question, they only want one, then you can try to pick anything that you like lah. So for example, if let's say I'm doing for the agree one, then you can try to see that either you want to write moving across the age group from under 20 to 25 until 25 or to over 25. So the percentages of students who agree increases, or you can just write that when the students get older, so when the age increases, then the percentage of the students who agree increases as well. Alright, so depends on you how you want to do it. So basically they are just the same thing. So I'm just writing down some of the possible answer that you can do. Right, so this is the part where you describe the association, and now for the reasoning. So a simple one, you can just say that the percentage in the agree column increasing with age. So that's the easy one. Alright, so for this question, the 2 marks is quite obvious. The first one, after you write down your description, no matter you are using this or this, that can give you 1 mark. Your reasoning, you can get 1. But of course, what you are writing here, it will be depending on what you want to write as well. So there are other possibility. If let's say you want to talk about the disagree also can. So moving across the age group from under 20, 20 to 25 to over 25, the percentage of students who disagree decreases. So your reasoning will be the percentage in the disagree column decreases with age. So for undecided, it's the same thing as well. So if you want to do that, then blah blah is the same. The percentage of students who undecided decreases. So you can say that the percentage in the undecided column decreases with age. So reasoning is something like explain how do you get your answer here. So that's the idea. Alright, so the 2 marks. So now let's move on to the next question. Alright, number 3, in the network below, the knots represent the towns and the number on the arcs represent the time taken to travel between them. So a driver leaves town A and he must deliver the goods to all the other towns and finishing at B. So that's why by looking at this question, then you need to understand that you are not finding the shortest path, because in this case, you will need to reach all the vertices before reaching B. So it is not finding the shortest distance only. So the question also tell you that a town may be visited more than once. So by using these tips, then you want to think of, is there an easy way if let's say you try to go front and back, then you will get a shorter answer. Okay, so in this case, then you can try to highlight the one that you cannot have any choice of. So for example, UB is one of it. So you can only, this is like the only edge that allows you to travel from U to B, right? Okay, so now when you try to look at this, then you can try to think of it like this. So you can start from the shortest one first, because what we are doing is just try and error. Okay, so if let's say we start from the shortest one, which is A to Q, then after that I realize that it's either I'll go to P or either I go to S. So if I go from PS, then it will give me 80. If I go to S and then go to P and then go to S again, that will give me 40 only. So that's why the easiest way is actually to go here, then after that go back to P and then come back to S, because I can repeat the count, right? So in this case, I will have A, Q, S, P, and then go to S. Alright, so this is like the front and back that you should consider. Then when you continue, when you are at S, then the same thing. So you might want to think of, if you want to go this round, then it will take you more time, because you need to pass through like 90 and 60. So in this case, you have 30 here, then you just think of like whether you go 30, 30. Then if you go through this, then you take another 60. So the easier one is actually to go through 30 and then go 50. So this will give you 80 here. So S, and after that go to R and then go to T. So when you are at here, either you go here or you go here to reach B or to reach U. So that's why the shortest way is going to be 90. Alright, so after T, then it will be UB. Alright, so in the exams, if let's say you have more time, then you can try to check out like other route and see whether you get a shorter answer as well. So after you get this, then try to calculate lah. So 50, 20, so you can write down the working. 50 plus 20 plus 2 times of 10, 30, 50, 90, and 100. Alright, and it's time to practice your mental calculation as well. So 80, 120, 170, 360, and then plus, 260 plus 100, and that will give you 360 minutes. Alright, so that's the way to do that. Okay, so part B, a simple connected graph contains 5 vertices. Determine the minimum and the maximum of the number of edges it contains. Alright, so for this kind of question, you can try to draw it out. So you know that you have 5 vertices, right? So like for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so imagine this is a simple connected graph. So if let's say you want to make sure everything is connected, then find out how many minimum that you should have. Then it will be 1, 2, 3. Yeah, if you can just randomly draw lah. So I want to connect this as well, right? So that's why 1, 2, 3, 4. The minimum that I will have should be equals to 4. So by using only 4 edges, then I am able to connect all the vertices together. Then the maximum number of edges, then it will be in a case where you have a complete graph, because in this case, you are talking about a simple graph, right? So it cannot have any multiple edges. Then the maximum should be equal to a complete graph. So in this case, you have 5 vertices, then you can use the formula as well. So 5 minus 1, and then divide by 2. So in this case, you can get 4 times 5, so 20. So the answer is 10. Okay, so if you are not sure with that, then you can also try to draw it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the maximum that you have is that everything connect to everything, right? So after you draw this, okay, so here, 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 then you can try to calculate. So in this case, you are able to get 10 edges as well. So that's the answer for B1. So B2, a simple connected graph contains n vertices. Determine the minimum number of edges it contains. Alright, so you can just try to look at your answer in one, then after that you can try to do it. So remember that if let's say the graph is having a 5 vertices, then the minimum is 4. So you imagine if you try to increase it until, if let's say you have like 6 vertices, right? Then what's the number that you can, if let's say you want to make sure everything is connected, then which means, yeah, the simple one, you can just try to draw it like this. Then this become a simple graph, simple connected graph already, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you'll realize that you will always have n minus 1 edges when you try to draw a simple connected graph with n vertices. So the minimum number, it will be equal to n minus 1. Alright, so that's the idea. So if you want to answer in full, so n minus 1 edges, so that's the minimum that you should have. So which means if let's say you are drawing a 7 vertices, then you should have at least 6 edges. Then only the graph can become a connected one. Alright, so the same thing goes on for all the other number. Okay, 3. What is the name given to the simple connected graph with a maximum number edges possible? So like what we have just now. So this is the maximum number that you're having, right? And this is just a complete graph. All right, so that's the idea. So, yeah, I hope that you understand why you cannot draw more. Because if let's say you are trying to have more than one edges connect the same vertices, then you will form a multiple edges, and this is not a simple connected graph anymore because you have a multiple edges. So that's the answer for part B. All right, so let's look at next question. All right, for A, given the sequence 2, 5, 6, 1, 2, 8, 64, 32, write a recursive rule for the sequence so you can find out whether they have a common difference or common ratio. So obviously you can see that there's no common difference because you have like 1, 2, 8, 64, and 32, right? So in this case, you can see for every case it's like half of the previous term. So which means our recursive rule here is the n plus 1 term will be equal to half. So either you want to write 1 over 2 or you are writing 0.5. They are both acceptable. All right, but then fraction will be an easy one if let's say you want to continue for your answer for part 2. Okay, so this is the way that you should write it. Then after that, your T1 will be equal to 256. All right, so make sure that your recursive rule should contain of two parts. So the first one you start from the pattern, then after that the first term. Okay, second part, deduce a rule for the nth term, then after that find out the 15th term, leaving your answer as a fraction. So in this case, then this is an geometric sequence, so that's why the nth term will be equal to AR to the power of n. So which means that Tn will be equal to A is 256, which is our first term. Ratio here is 1 over 2, and then to the power of n minus 1. Oops, sorry, I forgot this. All right, so after you do this, then now we can try to find out what is the 15 term. Okay, so T15 will be equal to 256 multiply 1 over 2 and then for 15 minus 1. So you realize that it will be a little bit hard if you want to find out like 1 over 2 to the power of 14. So you still need to have some knowledge in indices. So for example, you know that 256 is going to be the 2 to the power of 8. So in this case, then it will be 2 to the power of 8. So if you are solving this, then you know that the 14, so 1 to the power of 14, you still get back to 1. Then after that, you can try to do this. So 2 to the power of 14 here. So you can try to solve it by splitting this. So 2 to the power of 8, then after that 2 to the power of 14, then if you split them into 2, then you have 2 to the power of 8 multiplied by 2 to the power of 6, right? Because the indices 8 plus 6, you get back to 14. So this is how you can split them. So 2 power 8, 2 power 8, then you can cross over each other, then you can get 1 over 2 to the power of 6. So 2 to the power of 6 will give you 64, so it's equal to 1 over 64. But of course, if let's say you want to times 2 times 2 times 2 times 4 times 14 times, then after that solve it, it is totally fine as well, as long as you get the answer here. All right, then what is the important thing in this question is the first one, you know how to change it, you know how to express the nth term rule. Then after that, you are substituting 15 so that you can get your 15 term. Then after that, you get to your last answer. So that's the 3 marks for this question. All right, so part B, use the recursive definition given to state the first 3 terms for each of the following sequence. All right, so this is not hard as well. So the first one, you can see that how do you get a future term? You use the current term to plus 7. So this is obviously an arithmetic sequence. So you are given the first term, which is 11. So for the next term, it will be plus 7, so 18, plus another 7, so 25. All right, so just like that, then you can get the 2 marks here. So if you can write down the first 2 terms correctly, then you get 1 mark. Then next one, so which means 2, you get 1. If you can write the whole thing, then you get the second marks. All right, then after that for part 2, so this is multiply 1.5, but you are given the second term. So which means the first term, it will be 7.5 divided by 1.5. Then the next term is 7.5 multiply 1.5. All right, so it's like some mental calculation or some working that you need to do. Like if let's say you really do not know the answer, then you might really need to calculate it as if like how you do your normal multiplication. All right, so in this case, when you use 7.5 divided by 1.5, you should be able to get your first term. So you can do 7.5 divided by 1.5, right? Okay, so in this case, you can get 5. Then after that, for your T3, it's going to be 1.5 multiplied by 7.5. Okay, so from here, then you can get 11.25. You can write down the working. Then after that, for the first three term, it's going to be 5, and then 7.5, and after that, 11.25. So if you are able to get the first term, then you are able to get the first mark. Then after that, if you get the last one, then you can get 1 mark. So this is the 2 marks given for this question. All right, so part C. Consider the sequence 12, 7, 2, -3. So this is an AP, right? So when you try to look at this, then there is a common difference of -5 here. So by deducing a rule for nth term, determine which term of the sequence is -168. So the first thing is we need to deduce a rule for the nth term first. So since we know that it's an AP, so that's why the nth term will be equal to A plus n minus 1D. So this is from the formula that you have. So the first term is 12, and then plus n minus 1. The common difference here is -5. All right, no matter you use which term to minus the previous term, you will get -5. So simplify that, then you can get 12 -5n plus 5. So which means the nth term is 17 minus 5n. So you want to determine which term of the sequence is -168. So when the n term is equals to 168, it means that 17 minus 5n will be equal to -168. So now let's try to solve this equation. So 5n will be equal to, so bring this over to the other side, bring this over to the other side. So when you plus them, then you can get 185. All right, then after that, n, so divide by 5. So 5, 3, 15, 5, 7, 35. So that's your answer, n equals to 37. So in this case, if you are able to deduce the rule, then you will be able to get the 1 mark. So which means the general term here. Then you are trying to equate them into 168, you can get 1. Then after that, you solve the equation correctly until you get the n, then you can get 1 mark. So that's the 3 marks. All right, so move on to the next question. All right, question 5a. Redraw the following graphs as planar graphs. So I'm not going to redraw the whole thing because some of the question is actually quite direct and quite easy. So for example, the first one, you can try to redraw everything at the same place, but then the only difference is that the edges here that intersecting with other edges, then you are moving it outside. So for the FC, you are removing it outside. So after that, your answer here, then this one is gone lah. So which means this one is no more. So when you try to look at this graph, then this become a planar graph because there's no edges that intersecting each other. All right, so that will be the answer for part 1. Okay, then now when we look at part 2, then you can see that the intersecting part is either you want to move FD and AD outside, or you are moving AD and BE outside. So no matter which one that you are moving, so at the end you are get the same thing. You are going to get the same idea lah. So in this case, maybe I'll try to move AE. Okay, then I try to move BE as well. But make sure in your exams you should redraw. I'm just doing this so that I can do a little bit quicker. Okay, so in this case, then once I remove them, then I will have BE. I should draw it outside. Okay, then after that AE, I'll draw it outside. So if you are using these two, then it will be the same thing lah. So you have AD outside, then after that DF outside, then which means your AE and BE is still inside, but the answer is still the same. Okay, so I guess you can also check it out by yourself. So just make sure that it's a graph that without it's a graph that do not have any edges intersecting each other. So in this case, part 3, then you can realize here that in this thing, I think it's also quite direct. You can just move BE and BE and also BF outside. Okay, so only these two. Then other than that, there's actually no intersection anymore. So imagine after I move that out, so I'll be able to get this. Okay, so no more intersection here. Then after that, I bring out BE as well, right? So that's why this one also no more. Okay, so you can see that there's no intersection anymore in the inside part. All right, so that's the answer here. Okay, so now let's look at part B. So verify the Euler's formula by using the planar graph obtained in A1. So in this case, we are going to use we are going to use the Euler's formulas here. So in this case, so try to calculate and try to write down everything first. So let's start with V. So the number of vertices that you have is A, B, C, D, E, F. So that is 6. Okay, so number of faces. So remember, outside is counted as 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 outside. So you have 6 faces. Then after that, the last one is the edges. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so 10. So remember, when you try to write down, so do not write down the whole Euler's formula first. So you should just do V plus F minus E. Okay, equal to, then you substitute all the numbers that you have. So 6 plus 6 minus 10. And after that, you should be able to prove that you are given 2, or you can get the answer of 2. So this is how you prove the Euler's formula. Alright, so that's part B. Okay, so part C, one of the planar graphs is semi-Eulerian. State which graph it is, then after that, give a reason for your choice. So we know that semi-Eulerian, how can you check it from the graph? Is that you find out the graph that with 2 odd vertices and the other are all even. So you can try to check it out in this case, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this one you have more than 2 odd vertices already, definitely no. So you can try to check for the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is odd. Then after that, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I guess the answer is this. So you can try to check the last one as well. So you can try to look at the question lab, because the question only give you one of the planar graph, right? Then you check the other 2 are not. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, this is odd. So 1, 2, 3, this is odd. 1, 2, 3, so this is odd as well. So you have more than 2 odd vertices as well. So this is not semi-Eulerian. So the answer here will only be graph 2. Okay, so graph 2 is a semi-Eulerian. So the answer here is that because the graph, it has exactly 2 odd vertices. 2 odd vertices. Okay, and the rest are even. Right, so that's the idea where how you should answer it, but it is totally fine if you just write down graph 2 because it has 2 odd vertices. That is okay as well. Alright, but if you want to make it like more complete one, then you can write down like it has exactly 2 odd vertices and the rest are even vertices. So it's the same thing when you try to put in a word set. It has 2 odd it has 2 vertices with odd degree. It's the same thing when you say 2 odd vertices. They are just the same thing. So odd vertices is the same thing when you say vertices with odd degree. Alright, so that's the part for this question. Let's move on to the last one. Alright, question 6. So I'm not going to read the question, but basically this is a question where they want to identify whether there's an association between the age group of the students and the category, whether what is the mode of transport that they take to travel to and from the school. Alright, so complete the missing entry. So I think this one is quite direct. So you know this is the total. So 50 minus 19 minus 20, then you can get 11. Okay, then when you move on, the total here is 300. So minus of the other, then which means is 250. So this will be 50 as well. 50 minus 21 minus 11, and that will give you 18. So when you try to plus them all together, or you use 300 minus 73 minus 135, and you can get 92. Okay, so yeah, you make sure that you write down everything. So if you get at least two correct, then you have 1 mark. So you get all correct, then you will have 2 marks. Okay, so B, compare the percentages of students in year 7 and year 12 who use category A as a mode of transport and comment on your result. So in this case, so make sure that you understand what the question want. So percentage of students in year 7 who use category A. So year 7 who use category A, so which means you have 19 out of 50 of them. Okay, so this is for year 7. So 19 out of 50 are using category A, right? So you are just finding out what's the percentages here. So by having this, so 2 times 19, then you can get 38. Okay, then the other one is year 12 who use category A. So year 12, total also 50. There are 8 students who use category A. So that's why 8 divided by 50. So multiply 100%, then from here, then you can get 16%. Okay, so when you are writing this, so the question want you to comment on the result. So you are just writing down decrease. So that is an decrease or that's a drop. Okay, that is, yeah, if let's say we try to use the decrease, right, that is a decrease. Okay, in the percentage of students who use category A as a mode of transport. Okay, from year 7 to year 12. So that's the way of answering it. Or the other way that you can try to say is like comparing year 7 and year 12, and there's a decrease in the percentage of students who use category A as the mode of transport. That's just the same thing. You can use the words like drop as well. All right, so that's the part. Okay, so C, so this the question already give you the stack column graph, the proportional column graph here. Use the graph above or the other method, comment on the association between year group and category A. So when you try to look at all these questions, you'll realize that for bivariate data, right, sometimes the question wouldn't give you like a open-ended question that give you straight away like 4 marks like what we did in our textbook, especially if the question want you to identify whether there's an association or not, then explain, then describe the association. So normally in your paper, right, sometimes the question only need you to describe the association. So which means in this case, they only want you to comment on the association, which means like describe the association between the year group and category A. So what you should be looking is only the year group and also the category A lor. So in this case, then you can try to see that there's only 1 mark, so you didn't really need to like talk about them in a very detailed manner. But in this case, you can see that from year 7 until year 11, generally is like a decreasing one. But if let's say you are talking about this decrease, then increase slightly, then continue to decrease, that doesn't matter as well. So the thing is, we can answer like generally here because this question only 1 mark. So generally, as the students get older, or you can try to talk about moving across the age group from year 7 to year 12, that is the same thing, right? So as the students get older, this is the other way to say it, it's just the same thing. Okay, the percentage of students using category A, yeah, students using, I'm just writing down the shortcut, you know what I meant. Okay, using category A as a mode of transport decreases. All right. Okay, then after that, part 2. So the association between the year group and category C. So which means you're only looking at the year group and also category C. So in this case, same thing, you can see generally from 60%, then increase slightly, decrease slightly, but continue to increase. So we can talk about it generally as well because this is only 1 mark. So if let's say it's 2 marks, then it will be good that you try to write as detailed as you can. So you can say that from year 7 to year 9 is like increase, from year 9 to year 10 is like increase a little bit, then continue to decrease until year 11. So but then in this case, we can just answer it generally. So generally, so I'm not going to repeat the whole thing. As the students gets older, the percentage of students who use category C as a mode of transport, in this case, increases. Okay, so that's the part. So remember the words like increases, decreases, stay the same. So that's the idea. So the association between category A and category B and C combined, the same thing. You can try to look at category A. So you can see that for category A, right, this thing when category A decreases, okay, because this is where you can see it, right? Then category B and C, when A decreases, then category B and C actually increases. Am I right? Because you can see the portion here increase until here, then increase up to here. So this one is slightly decreased up, but it continued to increase after that. So we are talking about it in general as well. So in this case, the way that you can write is as category A decreases, okay, on the other way is okay as well. So as category A decreases, okay, category B and C increases. So it's the same thing if you write if category A increases, category B and C decreases. So just make sure that one increase then the other one decrease. So that's the idea. Alright, so that's the 1 mark for this question. I think it's quite straightforward. Alright, so that's basically all the question for calculator 3. So now you can start to look at the second video on calculator assume.